Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to NTUC Learning Hub webinar for Skills Future Month. Skills Future Singapore and NTUC Learning Hub are proud to present this online learning experience to help you upskill for a better career and a better life. Thank you so much for joining us early. The webinar will be starting soon. Now, while waiting for the rest of the attendees to join in, you may visit www.skillsfuturemonth.sg to find out more about the upcoming free webinars that you can also sign up for. Also, please stay till the end because we do have a post-webinar survey, and 2 participants who complete the survey will win $10 fair price online vouchers. For the busy professionals who prefer learning at your own pace, NTUC Learning Hub has made learning accessible anytime, anywhere through the online learning platform LHub Go. And in celebration of NTUC's 60th anniversary, NTUC Learning Hub continues to provide care and protection to members by providing upskilling opportunities. So right now, NTUC members get to enjoy the exclusive LHub Go Grow 60 to support your lifelong learning journey. Anytime, anywhere. For a limited time only, instead of paying the usual price of $26 per year, NTUC members can now enjoy 60 popular courses at just $6 per year. For more information, please click on the website link available in the chat box to find out more. I will be returning shortly to start the session. For now, simply sit back, relax, and we'll see you soon. Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Skills Future Month 2021. My name is Karen, and I will be your host for today. Now, Skills Future Month brings forth an exciting myriad of opportunities for you to discover how you can enhance your skill set and employability. With more than 130 interactive learning events lined up, you will enjoy unparalleled access to a wealth of knowledge from our network of partners, be it that you're looking for a job or upgrading your skills to give yourself that competitive edge. Now, Skills Future Month is the perfect opportunity for you to get a head start on your lifelong learning journey. The events also provide easy access to information on how Skills Future and the SG United Jobs and Skills Package can help you to stay relevant in the new economy. Now, Skills Future Singapore and NTUC Learning Hub are glad to bring you this exciting online learning experience. Now, please stay till the end because we have a post-webinar survey, and 2 participants who complete the survey will win $10 fair price online vouchers. Today, we have with us Junice Yeo, Executive Director for Eco Business, telling us more on navigating new careers in sustainability. So everybody, if you've got any questions for her, then please use the Q&A function at any time. So without further ado, I'll hand over the time to Junice. Junice, please.
Thank you, Karine. Good morning, everyone. It's very nice to be greeting you all on a Wednesday morning. I hope you can all hear me well. I'm just going to very quickly start showing my screen. This was stopped. Yes, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, I hope you can see it. Okay, all right. So I'm going to start off with a very quick introduction to everyone. 1 second, it seems like I can't seem to. Okay, perfect. All right. So, okay, again, you are tuning into our session, Navigating New Careers in Sustainability. Now, this is going to be a 90-minute session, and we will be starting with a quick poll of 2 questions, and this will then be followed by a presentation with 2 guest speakers, Hafiz Kasman from the co-founder of Kenobi, as well as Estella Ho from Zalora Group, who are 2 practitioners, and they will be sharing their perspectives on this topic as well. Okay. Now, before we start, I'm going to begin with a poll of 2 questions, and this should pop up on your screen right about now. Okay, all right. So there are 2 questions that I'd like all of you to participate in if we want to move forward and you know, to hear your perspectives as well. The first question is, which statement most currently describes why you joined today's session? I suppose there's only one that you can, one option you can choose, but feel free to pick 2 if you have to. Okay, and the second question to that is, which roles in sustainability do you think will develop most quickly in Singapore? Okay, so which roles in sustainability do you think will develop most quickly in Singapore? Wow, I see the responses coming in thick and fast. Really interesting. Okay, I'm just going to give a few more seconds for you all to fill in your answers, your perspectives. I think we're still running the numbers up. 1 second. All right, I think more or less. Okay, I'm just going to hold for 10 more seconds. All right, hang on, I have a raised hand. I think if any of you have specific questions, it might be helpful to just put it into the chat box. Okay, all right. Okay, I think it's more or less that. Okay, shall I end the poll? Nick, I think you can end the poll. Thank you. Okay, perhaps let's have a look at the responses now. So it seems for a lot of you, all of you are, most of you are here just to listen and understand the general landscape of sustainability. That's great. I think a lot of us are probably happy in our roles, but want to find out more. Some of you are actively looking for a new career in sustainability as well. That's great. Only a handful of us are in sustainability wanting to find out more. And this is great as well. And a small segment of you only want to listen to the speaker. So that's fine. Okay, the second one is, the question I have is, which roles in sustainability do you think will develop most quickly in Singapore? Now, I kind of sneakily asked this question, knowing full well that there isn't a right or wrong answer in this. To be honest, it's really everyone's perspective, especially coming from where you are in Singapore, what you're doing. You might have a very different lens on sustainability, and this might be influencing the way you perceive how it's developing as well. But it seems to show that a lot of you think waste and resource transformation, that's on waste management, is going to be probably the fastest growing area. The other one that is big as well is climate risk and sustainable finance. I kind of agree as well that this is really taking off. You see that in the press, but also, you know, in the industries that are, you know, offering jobs at the moment, we see that coming up as well. Sustainability reporting is also seeming to be very high in the rankings. The others that I gave as options were occupational health and safety, corporate governance, biodiversity protection. These were less so, probably as well. And interestingly though, occupational health and safety has long been a sustainability function for some time. It might not necessarily be defined as such, but actually it is very much linked to the work we do with sustainability. So it might not be growing, but it actually is quite a sizable portion already today. Okay. No, anyway, great. Thank you so much for your perspectives there. I'm just going to shut down the poll for now, but happy to have this in the discussions later. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move forward now with the actual presentation. All right. 1 second. Okay. I think it's got to go this way. All right. These were the 2 questions I wanted to ask. And all right. So in terms of the topic I will discuss today, the presentation is broken up into 4 parts. The first one I'm going to talk about is sustainability. Is it a boom or bust cycle? 5 misconceptions that I thought I would try to clarify. Then I will go into careers in sustainability as a topic itself. And then the last one is, where do I start? Okay, all right. If you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A box, and I'm happy to address this later on in the Q&A itself. Right. All right, so maybe just, oops, I'm sorry, I should have checked on this one. In terms of just a very quick introduction about myself, my name is Junice Yeo. I'm the Executive Director at Ecobusiness. I have a 17-year, working record in the public and private sector. I am actually based in China. I'm based in Beijing, but I am full-fledged Singaporean. I've been there and born and bred for a long time. But my role sort of covers a wide range of geographies today. And China is a big focus, but also in Southeast Asia, as well as my experience in Switzerland, which I'll share more later. My kind of journey in sustainability took different areas of focus, but I started out my career actually selling yogurts in China, selling commercialized yogurts when I worked for a French company called Danone. It was my real first taste of what it meant to be doing responsible business, because we were dealing with a lot of issues around the melamine scandal, as well as quality issues in the yogurts. Thereafter, I worked for the Swiss government, where I was facilitating investments between Switzerland and Southeast Asia. The reason why you can see the pork knuckle picture there is because I always share that story about how I got a first taste of what it meant to have cross-cultural differences. And in fact, one of the companies I actually helped to promote in Southeast Asia was one that was dealing with pork in different parts of a pork. And in fact, the parts which is not necessarily well liked in Europe, which are the tail, the knuckles and things, are actually delicacies in our part of the world. And so it's very interesting for me to have even discovered how something like, that would be considered as waste. In fact, they had to sell off their waste to get it cleared, would actually be paid for with top dollar in our part of the world. Then I moved on. 10 years ago, I worked for a low carbon city project in north of China in Tianjin, where we were converting a wasteland into an actual sustainable city project. This is actually called the Sino-Singapore Tianjin Eco City. I finished my role there, and then I came back to Singapore and I was working with a UK-led consultancy, where I then really specialized on corporate sustainability. That's where I really honed in on my skills in sustainability. And I built the organization for about 6 years before I then moved to China, where I now run Ecobusiness together with the CEO in Singapore. And we are a media organization specializing on ESG issues in Asia. Okay. All right, just very quickly about Ecobusiness, in case some of you don't know, we are Asia Pacific's leading media and communications organization. We focus on sustainable development and responsible business issues. Most of the people know us for our news. Our news site is very vibrant. We cover a lot of stories in this area, but also we run a lot of things on the side. We do communications and marketing solutions, as well as some research and consulting. Okay, now I'm going to start off the topics officially. And before I do that, perhaps I'm going to begin this presentation by exploring one thing here, which is which is a word cloud. Oh, excuse me, I think I might have missed out on something. Okay, yeah, by exploring, a question that may be on many of your minds today. Like many trends, sustainability has become a hot topic for many of us, and especially for businesses and consumers. From the big bring your own bag movement to electric vehicles to climate change, there are many issues that are associated with a big topic like sustainability. Is this a trend? Well, after all, the younger generation seems to be the stronger advocates for sustainability. Here is a word cloud, and the word cloud here shows a couple of buzzwords that is associated with the big topics of sustainability. It includes heavy topics as well, like ecology, energy, carbon neutrality, inequality, resources. These are very big terms that when put in context, though, matters to our human existence. But when it comes to jobs and careers, where we spend most of our time and effort making a living off, can these really be applied to our day-to-day lives? And I'm going to put these further into context with examples of what I think we could think about and what it could mean for all of us today. So a couple of examples here. One, in March 2019, several students and canteen workers from 2 schools near a river in Johor in Malaysia began to fall ill and complain of breathing difficulties. Now, the situation very quickly escalated, and in a matter of days, 2,700 people were hospitalized and over 6,000 of them were affected by the bad fumes. It was found that a tanker lorry under an illegal tire recycling company dumped about 40 tons of chemical waste under a bridge. These chemicals consisted of benzene, methane, and also hydrogen cyanide. And if the exposure is severe, it can immediately be fatal. Unfortunately, though, the cleanup was very swift upon detection, but the cost of the cleanup was about 10 million ringgit, which is about 2.5 million US dollars. Another example that I'm sure many of you know about as well, in April 24, 2013 in Dhaka, Bangladesh, a structural failure resulted from the collapse of a Rana Plaza building, an 8-story building which housed about 5 garment factories. This incident, which was considered actually the deadliest structural failure accident in modern history, killed about 1,100 people and injured more than 2,500 in just a matter of days. Now, upon investigation, it was found that the building owners ignored warnings after cracks appeared several days before. And only 5 months earlier, in fact, actually at least 112 workers themselves lost their lives in another related accident just far out, just in the same city itself. These disasters actually awoke the world to very poor labor conditions faced by workers in the ready-made garment sector in Bangladesh. And then closer to home slightly, in 2017, China announced an unprecedented ban on its import of plastic waste. And this resulted in a very sharp decline in global plastic waste trade flow. Now, all of us know that story. I'm sure some of you would have read it in the press, but the backstory to this is that since 1992, China had been receiving or importing over 100 million tons of waste, and much of it was actually the world's plastic imports. And after the introduction of this policy from China, it saw a sharp drop of about 99% of overseas plastic waste into its country. But that might be something to shout about, at least from the China's perspective. But the waste continues to flow from developed countries. As you can see here on the graph, which countries exporting the waste: Japan, Germany, USA, France, and Italy. Now, the impact of the waste, the world's structural waste, is being felt far and wide. After China's policy ban, the imported trash basically went to many different parts of the world: Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and Malaysia. The increasing waste caused significant environmental damage, air pollution, electronic waste even, and so on. Mainly because of many of these countries don't even have the right infrastructure to recycle waste at such large quantities. And this problem continues to exist today in many parts of our region. Even closer to home, in April 2020, Singapore witnessed the start of a very difficult pandemic, starting with the discovery of an outbreak among its migrant workers. I'm sure most of us know about this issue. Now, these migrant workers, mostly from Bangladesh, India, and China, work at construction sites. They work at shipyards, petrochemical refineries, or even cleaners in the neighborhood estates where we all live in. They live in dormitories, though, and often about 12 to 20 of them housed in a little room. In a city-state like ours of 5 million people, 300,000 of these migrant workers are housed in very small quarters, make up about 20% of our residents today. Now, this is especially poignant today because Singapore's COVID cases became one of the highest in the world at that time, and disproportionately on the foreign workers whose roles in Singapore are to clean our streets, to build our homes, clear our trash, and make us ourselves look like a first world nation. This issue definitely immediately exposed an inequality problem that remains to be improved in Singapore, but has certainly shone a light on an invisible segment of our society today. And a last example I have is one that is perhaps most significant, most well-known as a sustainability issue in Singapore. And it was dealt on many different levels: the threat of the haze from forest fires burning in neighboring countries. Now, one could easily point a finger at the palm oil companies for irresponsible burning, but a closer inspection of the issue is needed to really understand some of the challenges behind the haze. Now, this includes several things. Firstly, a very complex supply chain, which is very hard to trace back to the sources of slash and burning practices. the lack of education among smallholder workers, our dependence on a very versatile but very useful crop like palm oil, and of course, our own growing insatiable appetite for its end products, such as instant noodles, lipsticks, shampoo, and many more. And of course, when you spotlight on Singapore itself, on its impact, the cost of the haze itself, highlighted here, as you can see, was evaluated at $1.83 billion back in 2015. Air pollution is, in fact, the biggest killer today globally, and continues to remain a threat to our humanity. So these issues, of course, are incredibly important to fix, but are businesses aware of that? So this is where, I think it's very important for us to shine a light on some of the things that businesses need to do. Okay, I'm just going to pause very quickly and have a look at the Q&A box just to make sure that I have things being factored in. Okay, all right, I'll continue now. So all right, so in doing so, there are many examples that I could put out, but what I'd like to highlight here is that there is an increasing pressure towards governments and corporations to not turn away from their direct responsibilities, but also to take more proactive steps in mitigating some of these issues that could potentially pose as a risk, not just to their business, but to a wider range of stakeholders. The picture here is the World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report. Actually, there's a more updated one of 2021, but actually the stats are pretty much the same. And as you can see here, if I were to highlight a risk like infectious diseases, which is on everybody's mind today following the pandemic, infectious diseases was in fact ranked lower in terms of likelihood. Here you can see on the sort of the top left-hand quadrant here, in red, infectious diseases here. It is ranked low on likelihood, but it is ranked high on impact. And already we can see the devastation it has made to our lives because of the onset of the pandemic. It has gone to show, of course, that even though in the most unlikelihood of situations back in 2020, when the World Economic Forum was putting out a risk report showing that infectious diseases might probably not happen, but if it does happen, it's high on the impact scale. Look at the green buttons here on the top right-hand quadrant. All the green bars buttons here are actually environment-related risks. And so it's very clear that businesses have some scenario planning to do, because climate action failure, biodiversity loss, extreme weather, natural disasters, human-made disasters are all very, very likely to happen. And when they do, the impact is going to be very significant. This is also why in a couple of days ago, I think some of us might have seen the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, launched the grimmest report ever to date, showing a red flag in terms of where we are on the climate change situation. And it's very clear right now that the risks being reported here are going to really happen. And also, of course, businesses have some scenario planning to do. Most large corporations already are well aware of their significant environment and social impacts. However, there has to be a coming together of businesses, policymakers, and of course, even ourselves in terms of consumer behavior change. All these need to happen before we can really see some traction. But this is also why I'm very excited about the potential of sustainability jobs that will grow in Singapore. All right. And with that, I'm going to move to the next segment, which is 5 misconceptions. So the first misconception, or the myth that I thought I'd talk about, is this line that I often hear from people, or rather I observe as well, is that sustainability is a CSR function in a company. Just to be clear, CSR stands for corporate social responsibility. In a wider context, these terms could be used interchangeably. Sustainability is like CSR, CSR is like sustainability. However, when we are talking about most corporate functions today, a CSR role is now a commonly understood term that focuses on philanthropic efforts of a company, including its community-related efforts. This may be focused on driving certain issues such as health and wellness amongst its employees. It could be focused on an educational thrust, and it has volunteering and more as well. Sustainability, on the other hand, has evolved quite quickly and among businesses today. And it focuses on what we call the ESG factors of a company. E stands for environment, S stands for social, and G stands for governance. There is a distinction here, of course, as the ESG factors strictly follow global reporting standards and should be focused on material factors that impact on a company and its stakeholders. And when I talk about stakeholders, I mean its customers, its suppliers, its industry association, government, and of course, even the media. These are priority issues that a company knows very intimately about, but might not necessarily be addressing them. So if you're a bank, for example, an important material ESG factor might be, would most likely be, say, its focus on responsible investing, responsible business practices within its own investing and risk management, or also ensuring data protection for its own customers. A non-material ESG factor then would, say, be taking away plastic straws from its pantries. Now, this is, of course, an important issue for some stakeholders, but when you say reference this to a fast food restaurant, for example, it might certainly have to address all its single-use packaging, including plastic waste, as part of its efforts to reduce its environmental impact. And so in the case of a fast food restaurant, plastic straws or single-use packaging as an issue might most necessarily be a material issue, but for a bank, it probably wouldn't be. Okay, so that's a distinction here that we do need to understand. A second misconception is I need a degree in environment to get a job in sustainability. This is a misconception that many of my own peers have today, and I do definitely understand or empathize with why they say so. I can assure you that even as an employer myself, having an environmental degree may help you to secure your first job if you were, say, employed to do carbon accounting or environmental impact assessment. Very narrow, very in-depth type of a role, but perhaps one that requires a skill set as a bare minimum. But a career in sustainability today, especially on a mid-level, professional level perspective, requires a wide range of professionals from business to economists to historians even. What is important, though, that I should point out is that to have an appreciation for how issues are interconnected, and preferably a desire to understand why our planet's ecology is important for the sustainability of our planet, is more important. Today, I find at least the best minds in sustainability have had careers in many different industries before that have allowed them to appreciate and understand how things connect together. These are the ones probably that would, I would say, have a better shot to really secure a role because they would be able to apply some of that thinking around interconnectedness into their jobs in sustainability. The third myth, or rather misconception, is sustainability is usually led by the communications department, and therefore I should have a skill set in comms to be able to do that. To be fair, though, most companies in Singapore today have their sustainability portfolio being managed from their communications department. So this is not entirely inaccurate. However, if sustainability were to be run effectively and integrated into any organization, it has to be run directly from the CEO's office. Not only that, it should preferably be with the key functions of finance, risk, corporate planning, comms, of course, operations, and HR, working directly and closely with the sustainability function. This is because the sustainability function today really relies on these various departments in order for it to get its work done. Very often, in fact, I've seen many departments, driving sustainability from their comms side of things, but they struggle because they don't have the data necessary for them to report against the ESG requirements. I've seen several companies where the CFO or CRO have taken on the sustainability head function. And I have to say that has been incredibly encouraging, because the CFO does have a very important role to play when it comes to understanding the way the company's finances are managed from a short-term but also a long-term perspective. Then it's able to be integrating some of its accounting and financial practices alongside the non-financial aspect of ESG today as well. Okay. The fourth myth is only listed companies have sustainability functions. It's not uncommon to believe that only listed companies have sustainability functions, since most companies actively report on ESG issues are actually listed. So many SMEs or non-listed companies don't feel a strong impetus to think about sustainability strategically because there isn't a regulator breathing down their back, or at least ensuring that they report and explain their management. However, there is an interesting trend that is evolving over time. More and more SMEs are now managing sustainability and disclosing properly on ESG impacts in their business because they are a part of a global supply chain today. As part of global procurement policies today, many suppliers, large and small, have to have disclosure on what they are doing to ensure they are paying wages fairly, to ensure that they are protecting the health and safety of their workers, to ensure that they are keeping an eye on the breaches of anti-corruption policies and the whole gamut around compliance. The more they disclose, it's almost as if the more likely they are to qualify for especially large projects. And so this has been a very strong impetus for many non-listed companies today to get on the sustainability bandwagon. And the fifth myth is Singapore is too small for a country to, it's too small a country to make any real substantial impact. I would really beg to differ on this point, especially from where I sit in a very large country like China. While large countries have large environmental impacts and contribute more significantly to our global carbon emissions target, smaller countries, in particular ones like Singapore, can really punch way above its weight. Singapore has long been a regional hub for many multinational companies, as a leading center of excellence, boosting skilled workforce and talents. Singapore has attracted many jobs in technology, in R&D, in finance and strategy. Singapore's financial status in the region has also attracted a significant share of wealth and companies listing in our main boards. And this therefore means that it has a strong influencing status on the region's operations. This goes for sustainability as well. Increasingly, you can see more attention is paid on building up practices in risk management and legal compliance and ESG investing as well. And these are all part of the entire, I would say, ecosystem of ESG development today. Sustainability consulting, which some of you have ranked to be probably important as well in what's to come, has been growing in importance as more and more companies deploy external help on the advisory side of things. NGOs themselves, non-governmental or non-profit organizations, are also setting up strategic hubs in Singapore to be close to the businesses and governments that they seek to advocate to as well. So as you can see, Singapore might be a very small country, but like with many other examples we have today, it is really punching above its weight, and sustainability is definitely one of them too. Okay, and so this brings me to the third topic, which is careers and sustainability. Now, what are the jobs here and how big is the pie? So the scope of sustainability, which is the good news, is that it is ever growing and it's continuing to be evolving. This is a typical triple bottom line image that we often use to show the spectrum of how the sustainability issues are linked today. And if you can see what is in these three little circles, they're the typical ones for environment. As many of you would know, waste management is obviously a key one. Water usage, biodiversity or conservation, energy consumption, carbon emissions. These ones are the typical issues you would know in sustainability. Many of you also think of, say, recycling, upcycling, reducing of consumption and things. They all fall under this bucket of environment issues. Social issues are really rising in the sustainability agenda. Sometimes doesn't necessarily come to mind because sustainability often is equated to environment issues, but actually when we talk about sustainability, it does include the S side of things as well. Labor conditions, treatment of suppliers, social inclusivity, women empowerment are some of the examples, even diversity and inclusion. They are growing in importance also because these are issues we see every day in our day-to-day lives and our jobs as well. Many of them don't think of this pocket, but it is actually a key component of the ESG side of things, which is economic. So there's actually EESG, if you notice. Economic is utility savings. Now, this is interesting because many of them don't really see that connection, but utility savings basically means that if you were to reduce your energy consumption by switching off lights, installing energy saving capabilities in your operations, there are significant utility savings coming out of that. You can see in many real estate companies today in their sustainability reports, the utility savings is definitely going to be a key component of how they are making a business case for justifying why they should be more energy efficient as well. So that's an economic benefit to the company. Local jobs generated. This is great, especially if you say you were Facebook investing in Singapore. If you are able to generate more local jobs, you are contributing to the country's economic development as well. And that's a great positive sign for sustainability too. Fair wages, that's pretty straightforward, but actually sometimes might not be easily linked to the topic that we are focusing on. But to pay people fairly, to pay the above minimum wages, especially in many other developing countries, is going to be more and more important today. Tax management has become growing, especially in the last 18 months or so, especially with many, companies doing tax optimization and, being based in many countries in, say, the Pacific Islands, for example, to evade taxes. This is something that is part of responsible business and therefore is considered under the economic button as well. And then, of course, the governance side of things is all around, is what governs all of the EES as well, which is board accountability, risk management, board diversity, and strong leadership. So the reason why I spend a little bit of time on this slide is because I'm hoping that some of you who are tuning in are actually working in various parts of these buckets too. In your traditional role might actually already have a sustainability function today, whether you know it or not. And that could be really valuable because you could really be a very key part of what your business would be looking at in the future as well. Okay. And of course, promising news is that sustainability is a sunrise industry. And in here, I was hoping to sort of list down the jobs that we can start applying to. But, Singapore, it is itself, building its own foundations. The past 12 months has been very promising. Our own President Halimah Yacob announced that sustainability jobs will be boosted to about 55,000 new or upgraded in the next 10 years. That's a great sign of things to come. And these are spread across its 5 pillars, as you can see here: city in nature, sustainable living, energy reset, green economy, and resilient future. To me, how I understand this to be is city planning is going to be very important. We are going to be focused more on nature building, greener living. We're going to be also ensuring that we have lower emissions, more energy efficient technology. We are going to be investing more in sustainable solutions, as well as green tech. And we're going to be building up climate mitigation strategies to cope with global warming, because that's imminent right now for us, especially because we are surrounded by water. So lots of promising jobs to come there. And as I mentioned to you, I was hoping to list down the jobs, but honestly speaking, it's going to be very difficult. I am not the government. I wouldn't be able to anticipate specific jobs that are going to be out there, but I think this image would help. These are the categories you can consider. And in fact, this image was developed by a coach post-COVID-19 who's observing this space. And he, kind of nicely summed up the careers we could all think about depending on our skill set and preference. As you can see here, it was labeled careers with impact. But essentially, whether you're doing comms or marketing, whether you're in consulting already, whether you yourself are an entrepreneur, you could already be in academia. You could be an activist, or well, in a more palatable way to call it is you could be working in nonprofit space. You could be in a technical role, or you could perhaps be an engineer. You could already be doing the CSR side of your company, or you could be working in HR, for example. Whichever field you are in, learning and development, you could be in recruitment. All of that has a sustainability component in there. It's really kind of up to us to think about it and how we can design it based on our own understanding of sustainability. And this brings me to my last segment, which is where do I start then? And here, 3 things that I'm going to share. The first one is to get in the know. Sustainability is a very broad subject with many different aspects. There is more mainstream coverage of sustainability subjects in the press today. And if you are looking to focus on ESG, you can either continue to read, and understand it. But if you'd like a more focused type of media, so then I think you should pardon my plug, because I will plug EcoBusiness at the moment. We are actually probably the only news site today dedicated to sustainable development and responsible business. You don't have to pay. We have actually sort of made a commitment to make our news free to access. All you need to do is register an account on the top right-hand corner there. If you register an account with us for free, you will be able to read all our news for free as well. And that would also qualify you to get updates on a weekly basis of the sort of editor's choice news on our end, right into your mailbox. This should give you a very broad, but sometimes in-depth understanding of the whole series of issues that we face in our region in particular. But you can also do other things. You could follow, several organizations in Singapore that are very active. WWF is one, I would say, Conservation International, but also the Ministry of Sustainability and Environment is very active today. So I'd be definitely tuning into their Facebook page as well. The other one that I should also share is that we do a lot of events, at least for EcoBusiness, but increasingly many other stakeholders too. You can definitely go on events.ecobusiness.com, and there we have ongoing events happening. Actually, a lot of them are Singapore focused, but if they're not, they're actually regional focused as well. The one that I'm sharing here, Accounting for Nature, is one that's focused on biodiversity and how we are starting to think about how we can use accounting methods to start to account for our practices in managing biodiversity. Future of work is one that's really focused about the future of how our workspaces would look like, but also, in terms of technology and things, how does that interplay together? And right now, what's happening is yesterday, today, and tomorrow, there is an Asian Sustainability Conference taking place by the South China Morning Post. This is a virtual conference, and it's free to access for anyone who wants to tune in. So, you could jump on that as well if you want. Okay, so some examples there. Then the second one is get trained up or certified. Very straightforward here, of course, and I'm sure all of you are already thinking about this. How I would suggest this is a couple of things. The first is think about it from a framework perspective. If you want to understand the full gamut, the full, I would say, umbrella, topics, and where things fall under sustainability. A very good one is the GRI standards. I myself, I've been a trainer to the GRI standards since 2015. And I have to say, even just from my own perspective, it's the best investment I made for myself in terms of time to really understand the fundamentals. There are courses available online, but if you want, I'm happy to also have a conversation with you about how you can, we can help you on that as well. The other one on the right-hand side are university courses, SMU, NTU, NUS, SUSS, all of them have different types of sustainability courses. The ones I've put out here is two that I find very popular, always often oversubscribed, but I think also very valuable to consider if you want to make a longer term commitment. And then the third one is the one in the middle, which is edX is an example, but there's also Udemy, there's Coursera. These ones are large learning platforms that some of you might be using, but also NTUC Learning Hub is one that has been incredibly helpful today. We ourselves are running masterclasses with the NTUC Learning Hub, but and feel free to check that out as well, which I'm sure you guys would. But it is, these are a large library of training courses too. Okay. And the third one, of course, is the question is that I would, kind of suggest that you ask yourselves, is there a sustainability potential in your current role? A study that was conducted by McKinsey & Company found that various core job functions within companies actually are including sustainability in order to have a positive environmental and financial impact. This is very, very much in line with what I myself am observing over the years as a consultant myself to companies. As you can see here in the chart here, the results suggest that integrating sustainability into core functions are having a positive financial impact. And depending on the job function itself, so strategic planning, operations, risk management, comms, HR, R&D, supply chain, IT, sales and marketing, procurement, finance. All of them have different, sustainability functions within their jobs, but they are all somehow moving the needle on sustainability in the last 5 years. Now, this study was done in 2017, so it's not very, very recent, but I can safely say that I would feel the contribution is even greater than before today. So that's very encouraging, of course. And one prime example I thought I'd share is actually Unilever. So when I once interviewed a very senior level person there, and I asked her how many people at Unilever work in sustainability. And if you must know, Unilever is considered the global leader in sustainability today. She actually said every single person at Unilever has a sustainability function. And this is something that I feel many of the employees I spoke to after have given the same feedback. All of them feel they're part of a sustainability journey. And it just depends on which aspects of their role they've been very much a part of. Okay, and so with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. I see many Q&A questions already coming in, which is great. And now I'm very pleased to be bringing on my two panelists. And Hafiz and Estella, I think you can switch on your picture. Yes, great, thank you. Okay, so I have two distinguished panelists for today. One second, if I may. Hang on. Sorry, I'm going to have to juggle the questions. I'm not sure how to do that properly. Okay. So, excuse me, I just have multiple screens that I have to manage, so I need to just make sure that they're up. Okay, so our panelist for today is Estella Ho, Associate Manager, Sustainability at Zalora Group, as well as Hafiz Kazman, our co-founder and COO at Kinobi. So maybe perhaps as a start, can I just maybe bring on Estella to just do a little bit of a quick sharing about your role, and then maybe I'll move on to Hafiz next. Okay, Estella?
Yeah, thanks, Janice. I'm very happy to be here. Good morning, everybody. So I'm the Environmental Associate Manager at Zalora, and what I do is to oversee all the environmental work streams at Zalora, which includes our carbon footprint, and that's both direct and indirect carbon emissions from our activities, as well as packaging and waste that is either procured by Zalora or produced by Zalora. I'm also working with our parent company, the Global Fashion Group, or GFG, to develop a group-wide sustainability strategy and set science-based targets. So these are corporate goals to align with the Paris Agreement scenarios of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius, or at least well below 2 degrees Celsius. And apart from that, I'm also on a day-to-day basis working towards delivering Zalora's 2022 and 2025 sustainability targets, and that encompasses all the work streams that I have right now, and that means that I have to work quite closely with different functional teams across ops, logistics, marketing, finance, across the entire company.
Great, thank you, Estella. That was a very good and comprehensive overview of your role. Hafiz, hi, good to see you on board. Perhaps a little quick introduction about yourself, and of course also about the organization you started.
Sure, thanks, Janice, and thanks everyone. Great to see quite a lot of people here today this morning. So my name is Hafiz. I'm the co-founder of Kinobi. We are essentially a startup, a career services startup that really aims to democratize career information and career prep tools to students across ASEAN. So I think the idea here is to basically reduce inequalities. So regardless of where you come from, which university, which country you come from, you have the same quality career services that you can access through an online platform like ours, and basically be as job prepared as, let's say, someone from Indonesia, for say Sumatra, can be as prepared as someone from like NUS, as prepared as someone from like Stanford, for example. So I think that's sort of the mission that that drives us. Besides Kinobi, I do wear other hats as well. I co-chair Singapore's mentoring for Alliance for Action, as well as an advisor for multiple mentoring advisor and co-founder of multiple other mentoring programs out there as well. My personal passion in the SDG goals is really the reducing inequalities, education, as well as economic growth. So I think that's a good starting introduction.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe I'll stay with you, Hafiz, very quickly then. Since we're already speaking, you had a very interesting career path in finance and consulting before. So how was your interest in sustainability? How had it played out in your profession all these years?
Yeah, I think it's played quite a pivotal role. So I think what I missed in my introduction is previously I was working in a multinational consulting firm called Oliver Wyman, where we focus a lot on financial services work across banks in Southeast Asia. So I think that has been very interesting, and I specifically focus on risk projects. But taking a step back, I think it's firstly made a very sustainability has made a pivotal role in how I got in the first place, because actually that's how I met Junice, and I was involved in a sustainability case competition when I was in undergrad, and that actually led me to sort of step up my interest in consulting in general. Now within consulting, I think it's been very interesting. I specifically focus on risks, and I think I've seen many multinational banks specifically starting to translate sort of ESG goals or SDG goals coming from their main headquarters in the US and Europe into Singapore and broader Southeast Asia. And I think that has made quite a big tectonic shift in terms of how the mindset shift in terms of how sort of these banks think about environmental risks and sort of sustainable risks. So I've actively been when I was in consulting, the idea is that I've actually actively been seeking to go into projects that relate to these types of topics. I think that's been my personal sort of endeavor, and probably one of the reasons why I joined the firm in the first place. But otherwise, other than that, I think multinationals also have done a really good job in ensuring that employees are involved in other aspects of SDGs as well. So back in Oliver Wyman, I was also highly involved in gender and sexual orientation inclusion initiatives at the same time.
Wow, interesting. So you kind of volunteered to be more involved than usual?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's what got me there, and I think when I got there, it's what I seek forward to even further also.
Cool, thank you. Okay, Estella, back to you. So you shared about your work in Zalora, which is actually really exciting, and I think you're really at the forefront of a very big movement in this industry at the moment. Could you maybe perhaps contextualize that in terms of the sustainability priorities for Zalora as a whole, and of course maybe on a even higher scale, where does that fit amongst the other similar type of companies?
Yeah, I think maybe to answer your question, your last question first, I think Zalora is really spearheading a lot of sustainability initiatives relating to e-commerce retail platforms, specifically in the fashion industry within this region, because that's something that I think is not as pervasive yet. It's not like in Europe, where I think the consciousness of sustainability really percolates through different industries, and it's taken as a given that they should focus on sustainability and integrate it into their business models already. That level of understanding has not reached that much of an advanced level in Southeast Asia. So based on that, I think Zalora has taken quite a holistic approach to sustainability. So it's not just about environmental sustainability, but also about social sustainability, as you pointed out during your presentation just now. I think that focus on social sustainability is especially important for an industry that Zalora is in, the fashion industry. As you mentioned, the Rana Plaza collapse in 2013. I think that was really a huge trigger for a lot of fashion companies to sit up and start to study their supply chain and what goes on in it. And so part of that, we have 4 pillars for sustainability. One of it would be ethical sourcing. So looking at our supply chain, making sure that our tier 1 factories are transparently published by 2022, and that we work with our factories to give training on what ethical sourcing is, and to make sure that workers generally have fair and good working conditions. But moving past that, we also look at ethical sourcing in terms of the materials that we use in our private label, which would be the brand that Zalora has. If you look at our the apparel on our website, you see the Zalora brand attached to a particular product, then that will be under our private label. And so using more sustainable materials is part of ethical sourcing as well, looking at alternatives to more carbon intensive or environmentally degrading materials such as polyester, nylon, acrylic, all these that are made of synthetic fabrics or fibers. And going beyond social sustainability, we also look at environmental sustainability, and that is what my work streams target. So this, as I mentioned, includes reducing our carbon footprint from our own operations, but also the activities that arise indirectly from our operations. So for example, working with our 3PL or third-party logistics partners to decarbonize the services that we engage them for. Also, in general, I think the logistics scene is something that really needs to move towards net zero. And also reducing the waste that is generated within our operations. So we have a zero waste to landfill goal by 2025. Although I think we have made substantial progress in the area, we have reached over 80% of waste diverted from landfill already. And the last main category for environmental sustainability would be reducing the amount of packaging that we use in our operations when we send that to customers as well. But also, in addition to that, moving towards using more sustainable materials for the production of this packaging, because that has, I think, implications on also building and strengthening a circular economy for the use of these, for example, recycled plastics to be used in other industries as well. So that would be focusing on closing the loop on the use of these materials, because we understand that what we have in terms of natural resources is finite, and this also has implications on reducing our carbon footprint as well. So it's a win-win in that sense. The other pillars that we have, and I'll just go through them very briefly, would be sustainable consumption. So working with our brands as well as the customers that we have to nudge the industry towards more circular fashion initiatives. So for example, other than using more sustainable materials, it could be that we create a platform to resell used clothes, and therefore making sure that these clothes don't end up in landfills. That's something that we already have on the Zalora website. If you look at our pre-loved category, I believe Reflaunt also launched earlier this year as well, and that's where you can buy pre-loved clothes, I think in the luxury category. And the last one would be responsible workplace and community engagement. I think that falls more under like the CSR function that you mentioned in your presentation. So engaging our employees to get them on board to push the agenda on sustainability, as well as working and partnering with charities to receive donations towards initiatives or campaigns that we believe in.
Cool, thank you. I think you have captured, I guess, the focus of the company very well. And one person asked this question, which I'm sure a lot of you are also wondering. What is your academic background? Somebody says, WYU says, I found your job interesting. What's the role of the sustainability department with other departments or even the head cooperation, etc.? So I guess the person is trying to ask, how did you get to where you are in your job? And perhaps a little bit more about how many people perhaps in your department running the 5 pillars as you talked about.
Yeah, so a bit more about my academic background. I came from the same program as Hafiz, so we were both from SMU Business Management, although I think we majored in different things. So how I came into sustainability was when I took a class on environmental politics and policy, and I discovered, I realized the extent, the urgency and severity of the problem of climate change, and how it is the defining issue of our generation or our time. I think COVID-19 has definitely had very far-ranging impacts on how we live, but I think climate change is the more sustained issue that we need to address in the future, and starting from now. So with that in mind, I started to look at opportunities in the corporate sustainability space because I thought that was most directly relevant to my education, my understanding of how businesses work. And in order to show my commitment to sustainability, I decided to take up the Global Reporting Initiative or the GRI Standards training, something that Junius also mentioned. And I think if you are new to sustainability, I think it really does provide you a very holistic view of the different issues that make up sustainability. So as Junice has mentioned, it's not only just environmental sustainability, you also look at social sustainability, economic sustainability, and these are really key pillars that prop up the entire agenda moving forward. It's not just focusing on environmental sustainability that's going to get us to where we want to be. And so I would highly recommend looking into courses like that, even looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs, as Hafiz has mentioned, to get just get a broad understanding of what topics there are in sustainability that are issues that are very pertinent in tackling soon. And that will give you a good understanding of maybe where you'd like to start out, what topics you are specifically interested in specializing or pursuing or understanding more. And through that, I knew that I was looking, I was mostly interested in the carbon space because that related most directly to climate change. And so I applied for jobs that that focused on that. And I think there are courses, if you're interested in carbon footprinting or carbon mitigation as a whole, I think the fundamentals to start off with would be carbon accounting. And there's a course that is offered by the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, or GHG protocol, that is the most widely used carbon accounting standard in the world. So their most basic carbon accounting standard course is available on their website for free. And that will give you, I think, a very basic understanding of what counts into your carbon footprint, in operations carbon footprint or businesses carbon footprint. And from there, then you can build on your skills as you take on projects or jobs that relate to this and give you that depth of experience. So I went into my first job at a sustainability consultancy just with the GRI standards. But I think, as you will find in a lot of sustainability roles, what is most important for you to have is problem solving skills and a really good and rigorous understanding of the problem, because I think that's really what is needed, and that's very transferable from the current role that you have if you're looking for a career switch to sustainability, because it is a constantly evolving scene. There's so much we don't know about the solutions that are available to us to solve the problems that we know are apparent already and are worsening. So I think it's that mindset that you need to have in looking for a job in sustainability. It's sort of like a very gung-ho attitude of just going in, trying your hand out in things and getting your hands dirty, and then learning through experience. And that's what my path has been so far. I applied for Zalora's this role, even though it was 5 to 7 years of experience in a corporate sustainability setting. I had 1 year of experience in a consultancy working on sustainability projects, but I still went for it. And I think that's the kind of attitude you need to have for this.
Interesting. Cool. Thank you, Estella. Very, very nicely said. Okay, back to Hafiz. A couple of questions. I think the first one was interesting that I saw is how did you, what pushed you to take a keen interest in sustainability? Somebody had asked that question, but also I'd like to again ask a second question, which is, what advice do you have for fresh graduates looking to build a career in sustainability right out of school, with or without a degree in environment? It seems that like there is no shortage of sustainability roles, but companies seem to only want to hire experienced candidates. I'm sure you have some experience to share there, Hafiz.
Sure. Yeah, I'll answer the first question is how I got into sustainability. To be honest, it's really because I saw it as a high growth area and an industry in and of itself. Just like people might see technology as a fast growing industry, or just like how people might say, startups or being in a startups would be very exciting. In the same lens, that's how I took on sustainability. But obviously, I mean, I'm also very interested in making an impact to the broader society. But as a career and the decision to build a career related to high impact roles, by definition, the SDGs are all high impact. So I think that's how I took the lens of being, dedicating sort of my career around these topics of sustainability. I think. Then to your second question, Junius, which is how can an undergrad taking an seemingly irrelevant degree get into sort of careers of high impact, or in this case, sustainability? Yeah, I think there are two routes, right? So you can either go the specialist route or the generalist route. And in the specialist route, that's where you sort of probably may need some level of certification, may need some level of background knowledge. But there's also the generalist route, where say you don't need any of these, but as Estella mentioned, it's all about problem solving skills. Uh, and but to just well, obviously that's not enough, right? When you apply for a job, you can't just say I'm a generalist and I'm good at problem solving. Obviously, number one, have an experience of being a generalist. And why I say this also because back when I was in consulting, we were doing a lot of environmental risk work, and some include sustainable risk, environmental risk. Truth be told, none of us had any background in these areas. It was all about strategically solving a problem within a large organization, and a lot of it has to do with first principles thinking before preceding the more technical aspects of implementation. And you see that the roles that are available out there related to sustainability, a lot of them are administrator roles, not necessarily implementation, not necessarily specialist roles. So my take on what the alternative first step could be, other than taking on certifications, is to be in places where you can show your problem-solving skills. Now, whether that is professional or even outside the professional workspace can also vary. So I've seen a lot of people transition to sustainability, but preceding that, do a lot of volunteer work related to the topic areas of sustainability that they are interested in, be it that of education, environment, inclusion, etc. Have a passion for it, right? And show that you're at least leading up to or building your portfolio in one way or another to something that is related to sustainability. And I've seen many transitions go this route. So there's the one that's Estella's route, which is getting a certifications, but there's multiple more who's taken the other route. I've seen even the most extreme example, if I were to share, is a business undergrad that passed on his first job offer, which is a very lucrative job offer of, let's say, $8,000 a month to start a social enterprise related to environmental food wastage. He had absolutely no background in environment or SDGs or anything like that. But he did, and now it's a company that's valued at about $20 million after 2-3 years. There's an extreme example, but all he had was raw problem-solving skills, no certifications. So I think that's just underlines what the paths are still sort of blurry right now. I think there are many paths to go into sustainability.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that's a very good observation there. This is a related one, but before I answer that, I see a lot of questions coming in, and many of them might be very specific to Zalora's actual sustainability practices. Can I suggest just because the topic for today is really focused on jobs, careers in sustainability, I might not take those questions, but if you would like to get in touch with Estella, I'm sure you can connect on LinkedIn and ask more about this area. And one more, actually I'll answer that later. Okay, one more. This one is from Hao Yong Lu. As a company considering to upskill staff on different skills, knowledge of our staff relating to sustainability, where do you think it can be the starting point? Understand that there are transferable skills such as communications, stakeholder management, etc. Yeah, I think you are absolutely right that there are a lot of transferable skills. So where do you suggest companies upskill their staffs accordingly on sustainability, and where would be the starting point? Hafiz or Estella, any of you would like to take this?
Hafiz can go first if you want.
Yeah, I think companies take on different. So the question is, how do companies upskill their staff on sustainability aspects, right?
Yeah, where's the starting point? Yeah.
Do you want me to go first? I can start if you like.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think I would answer this question from the standpoint of someone who used to work in a consultancy and therefore has conducted multiple training sessions for in-house staff. I would say that the biggest gap I see in terms of knowledge of sustainability would be of the problems and what factors contribute to them. So I would say that if you are interested in upskilling your staff about sustainability, that's the place to start. Even things like climate change, what contributes to climate change? I'm not even talking about the science behind it, but what are the key industries or the key sectors or the key activities that your company has that contribute the most to producing carbon emissions in your particular industry? That's something that a lot of people don't have a lot of clarity on at this point. So I think that that's really the fundamentals that need to be gone through first before you even move to talking about skills. Because when you have an understanding of the problem, then you can start to think about, okay, what is the benchmark we need to get to, and then what is the gap that needs to be resolved. What are the hotspots that we need to target first and prioritize? Because of course you have limited time and resources. You want to make sure you tackle the high impact areas first. And then after that, you can go into what sort of skills are needed to then solve these gaps. And so that would be the trajectory I would follow to upskill yourself.
Cool, thank you. Anything else to add, Hafiz?
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the other thing is that there's hard upskilling and then there's soft upskilling, and I've seen soft upskilling happens also in my previous organizations, where essentially is to get employees involved in some way or another via low touch, mid touch sort of points. So what I've seen is then for those, so one of the things that we had in Oliver Wyman, 5 to 6 really employee resource groups related to SDG goals. And if one is highly involved in those, they're also rightly incentivized. So there's also a carrot and a stick approach, where there's a carrot if you because what happens is that sustainability is definitely not top of mind for all employees, and I think we have to recognize that. But if we are able to somehow weave it in their sort of extracurricular, quote unquote, CCAs within the workplace and incentivize them adequately, I think that's how you could also do soft upskilling pretty effectively. So for us, after every 2 months, an iPod was given, AirPods was given to like the winners of like this, like based on the level of engagement. Small things like that definitely helps.
Okay, thank you. No, that's very useful. Okay, the other questions that came in, a lot of them are related to specific roles. So somebody asked about mid-career switches from being a sales professional before, another one from the marketing side of things, and as well someone who seems to be more senior, I think 60 to 65-year-old. How does one embark on a career in sustainability? I think from these questions, it's also clear that all of us come from very different mid-career, even senior career roles in traditional industries, wanting to switch into sustainability. And I hope just now my session was useful enough to give some perspectives that the first one is you don't have to worry if you don't have a degree. Number two is even if you were not in sustainability before, you can get upskilled. There are lots of ways to do that, and I think Estella was very helpful to share. But a third one I think is very important is, can you find a way to build sustainability within your own current portfolio as well? I think that's super key, because many employers don't recognize, or they don't see, or perhaps sometimes they're not well educated enough to know that they can start to build sustainability even within their own core functions right now. So it's up to you really to persuade them as well for you to take it on. Perhaps, from an ambassador, a lot of them start off as like, I want to be the sustainability ambassador in my company. And then over time, when you start to do it, you realize you get a hang of the role, you can start to do more and build your own portfolio as well. I've seen that happen a lot in my own time as an advisor to companies. And just so you know, I advise on board level as well. And even board level, senior level, CEO level, don't know how to build a sustainability organization at the moment, or an org structure that has sustainability, because they themselves are learning on the job. So sometimes it's up to us to be a little bit proactive, to suggest that in, say, your annual, mid-year or your annual appraisal with your boss, to just say, I'd like to explore this part of the job. I think there is some suitability there. Perhaps I could just take on a role in this aspect of sustainability. I think it's worth exploring. So I hope that helps. And I'm wondering if Hafiz or Estella has anything else to add in that regard.
I think it's the career landscape of sustainability is still at its early stage. It's still whoever raises their hands can have the responsibility, right? it's very much raw problem solving skills that at its essence can help one, not only land a job in sustainability, but even succeed in this type of roles. So the open space is a highly open game, high growth, low competition, quote unquote, and it makes a lot of sense to think about going into the space.
Definitely, I do agree, and this is Hafiz's consultant speak, but it definitely speaks volumes for the industry today. It is really high growth, probably high impact, but it also basically means that it's a little bit of a no rules kind of thing. Whoever steps up to it actually gets a chance to be in it right now. So actually, it's very good for people like us who are wanting to build your career specifically in this space. Just from my own experience as well, I didn't have a degree in sustainability. I kind of built it over the years, but it really was when I became a consultant myself that I really sealed my own profession in this space. Many of us who are consultants, who are even in business development, consulting, research, there is really a lot of potential for you to build your sustainability portfolio, because it's really a matter of applying the same skills that you had to an actual problem-solving kind of mindset in sustainability today. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to very quickly
add on to that a little
Estella.
bit. I think a lot of my learning about sustainability and the skills that I needed come from extracurriculars that happen outside the workplace as well. So I think even things like participating in an environmental civil society group to look through policies that the Singapore government has when it comes to environmental sustainability really helps you get a sense of what the status quo is now and what the gaps are to reach the kind of targets that we need to solve the problems that we have on hand. I think another thing is that you can always start a project of your own if there's a specific area of interest for you. So for example, I recently started this very informal group with a bunch of friends and their friends to look at companies' net zero commitments for Singapore-based companies. And that has really gotten us into the weeds of, okay, what standards do they use to set the net zero goals? And that also gives you that sort of technical knowledge as well. So I would say like even having a pet project, an interest project can really get you very far in terms of building up your skills, because it really throws you into the fire in that sense.
Definitely true. I do agree. Okay, there is one question, and I think Hafiz, you might be the best person to ask. Are there networks out there we can seek mentors for sustainability careers? Have you ever seen something like this?
That's a very interesting one. I don't know any formal networks, but I think there's networks who have sustainability professionals within it. Naturally, you'll see a lot of mentoring organizations out there having career professionals that are a bit more senior and mostly from multinationals who have these in mind. And these are very much appreciated. So while I say I can't dare say that I know a specific network on sustainability mentorship, but there are a lot of career platforms out there. There will be a whole list. This is also a slide in. There'll be a whole list coming through in an announcement at the end of this year / early next year on exactly what are mentoring resources available to Singapore based on your sort of archetypes and the goals that you seek for. At this stage, we're still at the midst of collating it, but yeah, just know that it's coming. But there'll be more information going on.
Thank you.
Coming out very soon.
Okay, Jensen, just so you know as well, two things in my head. The first is I'm very happy to be speaking with you on the side if you need for advice on sustainability careers. So feel free to reach out to me. The second thing is EcoBusiness has a nonprofit arm called EB Impact. And every year we do run, actually this is the second year now, but we run a partnership with Facebook where we actually bring in mentors in sustainability to help I would say more tertiary students or fresh graduates to build a project in sustainability. This could be a viable one. I'm not sure if you are already have graduated or or you're still in school, but if this is something that's worthwhile exploring, do let me know as well. I'll be happy to connect you. Okay. All right. Another question is excuse me, there is one question around, can you break into a sustainability role with a background in compliance? Absolutely. I think compliance, depending on what compliance you do, but at the moment, ES and the G. The G has a very strong compliance component in there in corporate governance. So if you are already working on specifics on, say, ethics, as well as on, say, even financial compliance, there is probably a component in there that is very related to the work that we do. If you want, you can reference GRI's framework, and within that governance portfolio, you'll be able to see some of the disclosures that companies need to make it as part of compliance too. That might already guide you to think about how you can sort of evolve your role into sustainability per se. Okay, cool. All right, I'm sorry, there's just a lot of questions, so it's quite challenging to get there. Okay, there one more here. It's quite clear there is an over demand for sustainability professions and a limited talent pipeline. Aside from training or certification, what other available memberships to join to enhance industrial knowledge? Aside CPLC, GCNS, etc. Would any of you like to share, Estella or Hafiz, about any other memberships they can join to enhance their industrial knowledge? Jean Harn is the one who asked the question. I'm not sure which industry you are in, Jean, but say in the architecture space, there is actually one specifically on architecture. I do know there's probably one in the textile side of things as well. I've seen it before. Any that Hafiz or Estella has seen in Singapore?
I think the ones that I am familiar with and can therefore recommend have been mentioned already. So not memberships, but certifications or training programs. It really depends on what industry that you're looking at. So maybe if you could give more information about what sector you're in, that would be very helpful in maybe us giving recommendations.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you. Okay, hang on. It's just really a lot of questions. All right, I'm just going to pause a little bit and maybe just take a step back and ask about maybe Hafiz's point of view about Singapore government's green plan. You know, I guess, Hafiz, you started Kenobi, and from your own perspective as a management consultant as well, how do you think this will translate into actual careers at some point? You know, when we consider, say, urban mobility, you know, finance, food security, do you sort of foresee, you know, them shaping, you know, kind of career paths for Singaporeans?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, firstly, the 2030 Green Plan is highly ambitious, but beyond that also, I think it's highly specific. So I think in general, you know, where previously environmental sort of or sustainable areas are more of a trend, now it's a mandate. So I think the mindset is really shifted here in Singapore, and I think there are really a lot of opportunities. So that being said, you know, absolutely, whether it translates to actual careers, absolutely. If you look at each bullet point in the green plan, if you haven't taken a look, please do. There's at least a couple of you can translate a lot of these bullet points to a couple of hundreds, if not thousands, of new job openings over the past few years, or over the next few years, to accommodate for this. I'll take an example. An example is 60,000 charging points across nationwide by 2030. This means not only a set of engineers that will focus on sort of optimizing electrical distribution, etc., but you can see a lot of generalist roles coming out of this, such as business administrators who are in charge of planning and sort of monetizing and creating business models related to these charging points. You will have urban planner or urban planning jobs that are dedicated to setting this up. You'll have consultancies as well, and each of them would have their own roles and sort of that will pop up just on this one bullet point out of a couple dozen bullet points. Another example would be 80% of new buildings to be super low energy buildings. And here is the rise of your energy savings companies, right? And within that also, there's a very specific roles related to engineering as well as business admin in trying to come up with the best business model to implement energy savings benefits to the different real estate companies. There's also solar deployment. Again, if you look at the sort of breakdown of a solar company, it's not just the engineers. Again, it's also the administrators as well as basically multiple roles, right? And these all translate to jobs that are inherently related to sustainability in the first place. So definitely, yes. And these are just the ones that are in the green plan. There's also the, sort of plans in place that are not in the green plan or second, third order consequence of the green plan happening as well. So
Yeah.
for sure, multiple.
Cool. So no, this is really encouraging to hear. Another question that's related to this, I guess, is an often perceived perception that moving into sustainability means you can't make money. Do either of you have thoughts around this?
I hope not. If not, I have to rethink my entire career. But no, I think building on Hafiz's point, I think it's quite safe to say that sustainability is not a one-off trend. It's something that we can see will be sustainable in and of itself, because I think it's akin to the digital revolution in a sense, because now when we think of automating things, it's really second nature, right? We use text so much in our daily lives, in our daily work as well. I think sustainability will have a similar role to play in that in the future, when perhaps it's 2050 and we've hit the Paris Agreement goals, we will see that sustainability is integral to all business models. Business models that are not compatible with the Paris Agreement or the goals that we need to achieve in terms of sustainability will not exist in that future. So I think it's safe to say, and I have full confidence in this, that if you want a stable career, and it's sad to say in a certain sense, I think a career in sustainability is the place for you, because we will need more people and more hands on deck as these problems get worse and more visible. And so I think that's definitely something that we can unfortunately look forward to.
Very nice, thank you. I do agree with you. The urgency is what is very important to understand, and therefore, it's not. I mean, not making money per se, but the fact is that, to be fair, right now this industry is a sunrise industry. Therefore, there will be a lot of deployment of resources to ensure that we fix some of the challenges that we face today. Yeah, Hafiz, any other point on that?
Yeah, I mean, as I alluded to earlier, I see really sustainability as an interest because it is a high growth area. And okay, maybe not say not make money, but like, can you make money more than the average person in sustainability? I would also say yes, right, in the future. So when you think about lucrative jobs or jobs that pay well, I would define paying well is 2 standard deviations higher than the norm. And it typically relates to jobs that are close to the top line. So you have sales, consulting, mostly that are high paying than average. And I think it's all clear right now that revenue is no longer just the only top line, and sustainability is slowly weaving its way up, or no, very quickly weaving its way up to also be on the same level as revenue. And because of that, I think conceptually, because it's now the top line as well, then you will see a lot more higher paying jobs in this space. So that's just my view.
Yeah, agree. Thank you. Cool. Preeti Gupta asked, what's a good place to look for career openings? The canvas seems very wide. So would either of you have any job portals that you normally look at when you look for jobs in sustainability?
Yeah, I mean, it's very early stage, and actually before this presentation, I actually tried to take a look at it. So I think you have to really try a couple of keywords. There's sustainability, there's environment, there's risks, and it's sort of, I think HR folks are still at the beginning of trying to find out what to call this function, and to write a proper job description. So I think someone mentioned earlier, the HR functions look for 5 years of experience. Actually, that's not true. I think the only reason why they put 5 years because they don't know what else how to define it, right? It's a very gray area. So I say firstly apply for those jobs anyways because they are not well written JDs. But yeah, so typical places, I wish there was a central repository where these jobs lie and exist. But at this moment there isn't. But I would say the alternative is try a couple of multiple keywords that are synonymous to sustainability to really find areas here. Just a shout out to some people that are hiring. I think for those of you that are mid-career, I think SingPost and Grab are hiring sustainability managers. So take a look at their respective websites. UBS, for example, UBS is a Swiss bank. It's actually building up their Singapore Undergraduate Center for Employability and Resiliency. And it really looks to build a basically a center that trains students in sustainable finance, and they're hiring the founding team for that actually. So the manager and senior manager for that. You can take a look at those roles. None of those really again, a lot of those don't really require hard certifications. It's really just generalist administrators, as I mentioned, and very interesting roles, I would say, for someone to look at for those who are mid-career switching today.
Cool. One more maybe just to add is I built my career on sustainability, and the one site I used was actually strangely eco-business. I found my own job there, not this one, but the previous one. And in fact, eco-business's job site is the most visited page on our site. It's almost laughable since we produce so much news, but actually everyone is also on our site looking for a job. So try to go there as well if you need to find. We might not have all the jobs there, but if you also have a job that you want to post, feel free to do that as well. Okay, I think we're very close to 1 minute to the last, to 11:30. I just have one more question, which I think has come up a few times. And this is related to a little bit of greenwashing. The last question came in from Hao-Min Wang is, hi speakers, how do you identify a job function or company having room for growth for people interested in sustainability or are genuinely committed to genuinely interested to committing to sustainability rather than using it as a marketing strategy? So I guess the question is, how do you identify if the job is actually really a sustainability one or one that is part of its marketing strategy? Any thoughts there?
Do you want to go first or should I go?
It's okay, Estella, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think for me, when I was looking for my second job was to look at companies who have a track record of engaging in sustainability initiatives with very tangible impacts and also having a long-term strategy for what their business will look like that incorporates elements of sustainability. And Zalora really fit the bill because they had published their 2025 sustainability strategy, I think in 2019, and it laid out a very clear roadmap on what they wanted to achieve, how they were intending to achieve it. And I found that very promising in terms of the kind of very structured and ambitious job scope that I would have. And that also goes towards advancing my own career and developing new skills on my path. So I think that's one way to gauge that. But I think also during the interview session, you could maybe pose some questions to the interviewers to ask them why they care about sustainability, why the reasons or intentions behind having a sustainability function. I think that really speaks volumes to what the motivations are. Some people are really in it for just compliance. Other people, and I think this is increasingly the case, are seeing the moral impetus for moving towards sustainability. And I believe that that's a really strong driver for ambitious targets. It's not just about meeting the minimum requirements, but really thinking about what is necessary for our future moving forward. And yeah, I think if a sustainability function really is just about communicating and crafting what the company has done in a very positive light and not looking into deeper strategy work, I think that's also a red flag for me. So just some personal.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you so much. Hafiz, unfortunately, we don't have time. So shall we leave it at, unless you have something last words to say?
No, Estella, wrap it up pretty quickly. Pretty succinctly as well.
Cool, thank you. All right, so we've come to the end of our presentation. I just have one more thing to say before we finish up, and that is that I have another session with NTUC Learning Hub on Friday, and this is going to be focused on frameworks and developments. This is really around the whole issue of how should we be reporting on sustainability. I will go into more in depth about the global standards out there and which ones should we be referring to, how it's going to help in your reporting as well. So if anyone is interested in that, feel free to join me on this one. And otherwise, thank you again to Hafiz and Estella. It's been amazing to have you guys on, and also the phenomenal number of questions has been really encouraging. So thank you, everyone. And over back to you, Karine. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Junice, Hafiz, and Estella. It's been a really fruitful session and that I've enjoyed myself personally as well. And of course, to all of our participants, it's great to see that all of you are so forthcoming with many wonderful questions, etc. In fact, I've just seen one in the chat function. CY just wrote down there, and I really do want to read this out. He says that to the person who asked about remuneration, about sustainability, myself, I have repeatedly given out forays into this sector over the past 20 years that stem from fears of income loss and title deflation. So just go for it. So really, I think that, like what our panelists have mentioned, this is really a sunrise industry. There's a lot of growth that could potentially spiral into something very big, just like how Facebook started from nothing. This could very well be a sector that you could look into, and we would very much encourage you to go forth and explore. Now, like Jonas has mentioned, tomorrow we do have another session, so please sign up for it if you're interested. And with that, everybody, we've reached the end of the webinar, and we would love to receive your feedback. So once you exit the session, you will be shown a Zoom survey link on your browser. Now, all you need to do is to complete this short survey, and you may just be one of our 2 lucky participants to bring home $10 fair price online vouchers. Now, if you do wish to go for more in-depth training, then please visit NTUC Learning Hub website to find out more about their courses. And for the busy professionals who prefer learning at your own pace, NTUC Learning Hub has made learning accessible anytime, anywhere through our online learning platform, LHub Go. Now, for this particular session, about 2 to 3 weeks time, we will be posting the video recording available online at our NTUC LHub YouTube page, so you can check that out if you need a refresher. Now, also do remember to check out our other Skills Future Month 2021 webinars at www.skillsfuturemonth.sg and follow us on our social media channels to be notified of future events and promotion. So if you do want to sign up for Jonas's session tomorrow, simply head over to...
It's on, sorry, Corinne, it's on Friday. It's on Friday.
Oh, yes, it's on Friday. Sorry about that. Yes.
No worries.
So if you do want to sign up for that session, similarly, head on over to www.skillsfuturemonth.sg. So with that, we've come to the end. Once again, thank you so much to Jonas, Hafiz, and Estella, and wishing everybody a fantastic day ahead. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.